This is probably the least hunted spawn of Solwar. It has remained that way throughout the times. But here it goes. This is the Mirror Nightmare. But first, a quick disclaimer. Solwars has been nerfed and buffed many times. As it currently stands, most of tents are bad spawns to hunt unless you're able to hunt with double tents and do bigger lures, but that is not the target audience for this video. Instead, I am covering the normal lab and general info you need to know if you're looking to come hunt here, be it because you want charms or simply the challenge hunt. And because of my lack of recent recordings, I will use older hunt videos, and that will result in being harder to get an accurate current XP per hour. With that said, let's begin. The mechanic of the spawn is that many phases can hit critical attacks, and additionally, the concept of the spawn is an alternate dark version of this, where you find mirror images of the vocations. These creatures in the base form are ranged, and upon receiving damage, they turn into one of the 5 vocations, with the source of damage having a bit higher priority on the turn apparition. However, this means the spawn has a total of 7 creatures, for a total of 700 bestiary points, since they are all challenging category, and that is also the main reason this spawn has always been the least hunted of Solwar, since preys are pretty bad here. And even though it is a lot of bestiary, it will also take a long time to complete everything. On my first hunts with a level 900 teams, no charms, we were getting around 430 mirror images, with half of them being RPs or EKs. Nowadays, the distribution is a little bit more equal, but even on the most generous estimate, this will be a 60 plus hour bestiary for all the apparitions. If you have a 5-man team with a monk on it and actively focus on letting the other vocations hit the mirror images first, you could decrease it further, so keep that in mind if your goal is bestiary. And if you still want to come here, this is what you need to know. The main source of damage is Holy, followed by Ice and Physical to the EK, with mages having an even higher distribution of Holy and Ice, so mainly gear up against Holy damage, with Ice as second imbuements. This is also a good spawn for mages to consider using Emblemels, maybe the EK as well. Creatures are especially weak to death followed by fire, but in the case of knights of axe and sword, I would recommend sanguine fire weapons over the stalwart death ones, simply for the better proficiencies. For mages, use GFBs and spells. In terms of charms, prioritize the many faces, phantom, and possibly night apparition. At least in our case, I was hitting most of the apparitions. Everything else after that is whatever you have available to use. And for Wheel of Destiny recommendations, on EKs I recommend Gift of Life with Exorymas perks and rest on HP stats. Druid should get some upgrades on Terra Waves and possibly Twin Bursts to have more attacks available. Sorcerers are the ones with the most options. You can play off greater gems to the side, but Fire Wave with one upgrade on energy is a great choice. You can also play around with the Beam Mastery for the Death Beam and cooldown reduction. For paladins, most creatures are very resistant to Holy, so it's not ideal to go Grenade or Mass Sand perks. Instead, you could put more points in Empowerment and play around gems. Mons I think should go with a Spiritual Outburst and Improves on the Chain. With that said, let's break down the lab, which is quite long and can be confusing. Keep in mind some pools on this lab are optional and I will point them out, but for the most part it's the general lab. To start off, I would recommend to start with a pool by the boat, because the alternative is to send it to the depot and that will end up with a big overlure. So keep it simple and do it here, which is also one of the optional pools once you are in the lab. You will have come here after doing the pull on the depot, but this is only if you're having overkill issues, which is not common to happen. For the pull on the depot, you will be coming from the right and lure some creatures from there. EK peeks towards the southwest to grab creatures around there and then settle by the middle of the depot. Once this is over, you will go down the sewer and then down again. Be aware that this is a one-way sewer. You cannot go back up through here. EK peek north and you could have the paladin lure a few more from the east. Also, inside of the spawn, you will find these mirrors on the walls. Clicking on them will break it and summon a mirror image, and they have a cooldown of around 7 minutes. After this, you have another optional pull to the right. This one requires others to help with luring once the EK gets to the spot, then you can have the paladin lure from the south or east. Keep in mind this can get overlured easily and also doesn't have much room to move. On top of that, once it's over, you have to backtrack. So overall, it's not a good pull to include, only do it if necessary. Then after the previous, or after this one, continue northwest. If the EK did not lure some to the previous pull by picking north, you might have too many here, and in that case you could do another pull here. But ideally you want to have dragged some of these down to the first pull and then bring the remaining to the northwest to settle by this room. which has plenty of room to move around the Ike. But if you are not comfortable with the overlure, then include that pool in the middle. We summon luring creatures from the north if needed. For the next pool, continue east and set up by the middle. This one has enough creatures on its own, but more can be lured by having someone pick southeast. This pool is mainly apparitions, and it's always recommended to let the EK hit them when he is ahead of everyone, or optionally let him armrest the mirror images and then somebody else can attack when they are close to him. This way the aggro will be prioritized on him. For the next pool, continue the path northeast and slowly lure the creatures on the way, setting up by the middle of this path, and then have the paladin pick northeast to lure a few extra that sit around there. Then once the creatures die, backtrack and this time take the path on the south. EK pick northeast quickly and then set up at the open path to the south, which you will take next after this. This one can result in a big overlure as well. You could have the EK pick west and grab some creatures out, and have the paladin lure from the east, which has about 5 creatures more. If you wanna keep it more control, then EK can set up on the right side and either lures the creatures on the right himself or somebody else does that. Then take the stairs and go back up to the surface. Once there, lure the creatures down south and you can set up around here, leaving room for a mage to go to the right in the house. Meanwhile, Paladin lures creatures from the south. I don't recommend to set up in front of the doors of the buildings, because waves will get caught if a mage uses that, so avoid relying on door frames, and if you want more space than this and can handle overlure, you could go further south and set up by the street. Once this pool dies, you have an optional pool to the right, through the one way to the back of the buildings. This is not a good one, but it's a quick setup if you are overkilling. But normally the pool you wanna go to is in front of the mana shop. For this one, extra creatures tend to come on their own from the north, but there is more apparitions to the right that can be lured by the RP. Then after that, go west, and I don't recommend to go all the way into the crossroad. Simply pick into it and backtrack, setting up north of this building to give another wave spot for a mage. Then after that, grab the remaining creatures by the crossroad and lure them north, getting to where the weapon shop is on regular TS. This one should have enough creatures with a few extra, but more could be lured from the northeast. Then after that, find the sewer nearby and go down, EK first, and slowly luring the creatures south to the crossroad. Meanwhile, the paladin could have gone down a different sewer by the previous pool, and lures the creatures from that side to the middle. If you're not comfortable with the extra creatures, then avoid that lure. And if you wanna do it and make it bigger, RP can still lure more from the left, or MS can grab from the south. But once you're done with this, go up and to the west to get back to the depot, slowly luring the creatures on the way, and optionally the RP can help with luring from the path or the apartment building. With that, the lab is completed. The estimated experience should be around the 8 to 10k depending on the levels, which I recommend to be over 900 preferably, but with the few suggestions I made to make some pulls easier, you could come earlier than that, or at least keep it simpler until you unlock the main 2 charms. Lastly, as of the making of this video, the creature products of this spawn are not part of the weekly deliveries, but that could change in the future. But if anyone has hunted here recently, please share below the results you were getting. And that's all I got for this video. Thank you for watching and hope to see you again.